All right, guys, here we are with my top 170 to 61. Hey guys, welcome. If you are new here, welcome back. If you are not, I'm so very excited to continue on with this list. However, in this list, again, I have a bit of a caveat. A lot of the books on this list with this section are going to be first books of series that I absolutely loved and have a feeling that these are just going to become all-time favorites for me, or, you know, there's a few standalones in here. But I've only read the first book of the series. I loved them, but I haven't continued yet, and these will probably be series that I look to complete in 2024. Okay, starting us off at number 70, I have the Spellbreaker duology. I really enjoyed this. This has kind of like a gothic Victorian blend. There's a little bit of romance, but the main mystery of this story just, I ate it up. I ate it up. I loved it. And I really like historical romance, but you have to tell me it's a historical romance, not pitch it as something else. And so I had never read any Charlie Ann Holmberg before reading this. Now I have everything Charlie Holmberg has ever written on my TBR. I have downloaded almost everything from Audible because during the Audible sales, all of her works ended up being like $5 or less. And so I just snapped them all up. I have so many that I need to get to, but I still have only read the first of this duology. I am planning on reading Spellmaker. Yeah, this is Spellbreaker. So Spellmaker here in the near future. And it'll probably be a book I tack on to my TBR simply because it's a very quick read, but loved this so much. Next is going to be another that I never continued the series, but this one I don't mind going back and rereading at all, and would love to continue on with this series because I just love this author's writing so much. However, I have a thing with books I know that are going to be emotionally heavy. I put them off and I just won't read them because I don't want to cry. However, no one can deny Of Honey and Wildfires by Sarah Torn is amazing. Amazing. If you want an emotional roller coaster, sapphic romance, really interesting magic, and kind of like the Western style setting, you need to be reading Of Honey and Wildfires because this book is amazing. And again, it's coming low on this list because I haven't finished the series. I've only read one book, but I just love her writing so much. I've read 3 of her works, and I want to say that this is my favorite. And of the other 2, I didn't read them to completion because my anxiety got the best of me, and that tends to happen when I read emotional books, and I was having an emotional time when I read the other 2. But A Sorrow Named Joy is another one that I really liked up until my anxiety took over, and it has kind of like a Stepford Wives, I'll overlay the cover here, type feel to it at first, and like I said, I was really enjoying it until my anxiety took over and the emotional toll it was taking on me was a little too much at that time. But I definitely plan to go back and read it. I have The Necessity of Rain that I am so looking forward to. Sarah had been talking about an audiobook possibly from The Necessity of Rain, and that I will glom onto real hard because you know I love audio and I'm an audiophile, but being dyslexic, it's kind of an excuse, but it's also so much easier for me to absorb the book that way. But yes, Of Honey and Wildfires, highly recommend. Next will be a book that I read on my romantasy journey this last year, but I loved this dynamic of these characters. I loved the political background that this book is set on, and The Curse of Saints by Kate Dramas. I loved everything about this book, and I do think that this cover makes it seem YA. It is definitely not. But I really enjoyed how we have a main character who's like the protector of her queen, the realm, you know, and then the head of the Queen's Guard, who have to go infiltrate another nation and figure out what's going on with the political situation and the magic, all that stuff going on in this world. And by throwing them together, there does seem to be a romance blossoming. Yeah, there's a romance in here. But again, the fantasy romance that I picked up, and I really enjoyed this one. And I can't wait for the second book to come out. This is my ridiculously gorgeous fairy loot edition of the book. So yeah, I mean, this is stunning. I don't know that I will track down a special edition of the other books, but I will try to at least get them in hardcover. And I really enjoyed it. Really, really enjoyed it. All right, next would be The Kingdom of Liars by Nick Martell. Again, this one is coming so low because this is the only book I've read. This is so interesting, and the world building is so interesting. The political machinations are so interesting. What's going on with our main character is so interesting. However, I have found a lot of people will pick up this first book, think it's amazing, and then not continue. And I don't know why, but like, it seems to be a syndrome we all have. However, I do plan to track down, it's been hard to get a hold of the second book. So I do plan to track down the second and third books in the series and probably continue them in 2024 at some point. But I really adored this. This has so much going on and it's so interesting. We have a main character who's trying to rebuild his family's legacy in this world because their dad did something kind of heinous, and once that happened, that kind of lowered their standing, the whole family's standing in this world, and he's trying to gain it back. And by gaining it, or there's a way for him to gain it back, and it's at this ball with a bunch of nobles, and it's kind of a competition, but not. But I really, really enjoyed this one, and I want to see where it goes because I really liked Michael's story a lot, and I really want to be one of them that finishes the series. Another fairy loot book that took me by surprise is The Last Tale of the Flower Bride. Now, it took me by surprise by being offered from Fairy Loot. But this is a gothic tale. You guys know how much I love gothic books. You guys know how much I love creepy books. This is atmospheric, gothic, everything you could want in a gothic novel. So the tagline of this book is combining the lush, haunting atmosphere of Mexican Gothic with the dreamy enchantment of the invisible life of Addie LaRue. The Last Tale of the Flower Bride is a spellbinding and darkly romantic page-turner about love and lies, secrets and betrayal, and the stories we tell ourselves to survive. Now that's all I want to say about this book because everything I want to talk about could definitely be considered a spoiler. And we have two girls that grow up together. One is wealthy and one is poor. However, they make up stories in order to make their lives seem less surreal than what they are. And that leads to what is happening in this book. And I loved it so much. Highly, highly recommend this one. I did mention there will be some throwbacks to my urban fantasy days, and I have to give a shout out to Anita Blake, Laurel K. Hamilton. This, again, is very, very nostalgic for me. I love this series. I love Anita Blake. I love her harem of men that she collects along the way. You think I'm joking, but I'm not. This is a vampire hunter turned vampire lover kind of situation here. And Anita Blake is the ultimate badass. But there is a point where I do think this series kind of devolves into nothing but porn on paper, or, you know, just romantasy in the worst way possible. But I do feel like I still love these books. Will I read on in the Anita Blake series? Probably not. Probably not. I got what I wanted from this series. And even though I have no closure with Anita and Jean-Claude and co, I still feel like this is really good. And I'm holding up kind of it's a book like much further into the series than the first book, but it's one of my favorites. Obsidian Butterfly is my favorite of it, but this is one of the last favorites I had in the series, Cerulean Sins. I did like the Harlequin when I got there, but at that point, I do feel like it has devolved into what I was talking about. So again, one of the series that ranks very highly on my list due to nostalgia, and probably not a whole lot more, but I do still really love it. Okay, now for a book that I bought a special edition of myself because I needed it. We have The Book Eaters by Sunyi Dean. Again, another gothic tale that I absolutely loved. Yes, I tracked down the Illumicrate version of it because I needed it in my life. This is a story about a mom trying to protect her child. And just because that child has heinous magic at his fingertips doesn't mean she's gonna stop protecting him and loving him. So whatever you can glean from that is what happens in this book. And she's forced to kill humans to feed him. So it's crazy, but it's really about love and family and the ties that bind us and what we're willing to do for the people that we care about. There's a lot of abuse that happens in this. There's a lot of trauma that goes on through this book, so I would definitely look up trigger warnings for it. But I thought this was a very beautiful, beautiful book. Next is one that I don't own, and it's because I have never found it available for purchase, but I did listen to the audio, and it's Certain Dark Things by Silvia Moreno Garcia. Silvia Moreno Garcia is one of those people I say is an absolute hit or miss for me. This happened to be an absolute hit. This is a very different take on vampires living in Mexico City. That's pretty much all you need to know because this is a novella. And it just looks at the different types of vampires that live in and amongst Mexico City. But it was really, really cool. I really enjoyed it. And I do wish there was more from this world because I really want to know, like I really need to see what all of these vampires look like and what their powers can actually do. I'd really love to see all of that. And another that's coming this low on the list because I've read the first book, we have Under the Northern Sky, The Wolf, Leo Carew. I really enjoyed this. Now, this is a little slower paced than what I normally like. This is a little bit more scattered than what I normally like, but I really enjoyed this story. And I think it's the Norseness of it that makes me really enjoy it. And I've read like A Plague of Giants from Kevin Hearn and oh, what's the other one? I can't really think of it right now, but books like this really, like I get tied up in the anthropological aspects of the books, and I really, really enjoy that about them. But we do have two different sides of a war, and we get to see both leadership aspects of this war and why they're fighting and all that stuff. I thought it was really good. I didn't need a whole lot of plot, though there is one, and it's basically the war that they keep pushing, but I just thought this was great and I can't wait to continue. I do have the Spider. I have the whole series, so I do plan to continue it in 2024. I haven't put it on a list yet, but there's nothing saying that I won't just pick it up in February. Now for a completed series that I do feel needs to be shouted out in this list, but there have been quite a few other series that have kind of knocked it down for me. That would be The Queens of Renthia by Sarah Beth Durst, The Queen of Blood being the first of the trilogy. I enjoy this. This is a series set in a forest, and in the forest there are spirits that live on the floor of the forest, and then the people live in the canopy of the forest, and the spirits themselves will attack and if they feel threatened. Now, the queen of this realm is starting to die, and because of that, it is the queen's magic that keeps these spirits at bay. And with her dying and her magic dying, they are getting a little out of hand, and there is a push to elect a new queen. And that's where we find ourselves in the first book. Now, I loved The Queen of Blood. However, the second book in the series, The Reluctant Queen, has a mama bear character to trump all mama bear characters, except maybe the Maleficent Seven. But, you know, I loved her, and that second book is my absolute favorite. Now, why this series comes this low on this list is because the third book kind of let me down. It didn't have much of an explosive ending. It just kind of ended. And it didn't have like that heartwarming push to see other things come to fruition. It just didn't have that. And I liked it. I gave it 4 stars, the final book in the series, but it was a bit of a letdown, especially since this book was a 4-star and the second book was a 5-star. I was expecting to be blown away by the third book, and that just didn't happen. All right, that is the end of the list for today, 78 to 61. And just like with every video I've posted thus far, these are kind of interchangeable. You can shift them about and count one at 70 and one at 61 if you want. I don't care. These are just 10 that I needed to bring to your attention or talk about because they are favorites of mine and I need to continue with these series, or just needed to share how much I love these standalones. However, that ends my video for now and ends my list for now. And remember, I have a Patreon if you'd like to subscribe. We are buddy reading Ancillary Justice right now, and we do have a bingo board that is still awaiting a winner. Like, subscribe, do all the fun things. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.